Well, here we are. We're just going to try this today. Lots of CFL breaking news coming out this week in general, and especially today with Vernon Adams and everything going to the BC Lions. I have my hat on. I was sitting there thinking, I really need to work, get to editing a video for one of my clients. I thought, I'd much rather talk about some CFL stuff. So, middle of the day here, it's 1 Pacific. Going to be doing kind of some live reactions to all the news this week. I have Andrew Murray that's going to be calling in a little bit. If you are interested in calling into the show as well, I have the link pinned at the top of the YouTube channel. So if you want to call in, you can leave comments. We'll react that way to the text comments. But I would really like some people to call in. Just exciting times. I was sitting here just busting. We've been tracking the USFL players to the NFL transactions all week. Lots of things going on. So whatever you guys want to talk about, but happy to do that for a little bit here. I know Andrew's got time until 2. That seems good, hour or less. But certainly, what are we talking about here? We got Vernon Adams. I don't want to divulge my sources, but I had a little birdie chirp at me last night, said, expect some big things coming to BC tomorrow, coming off of the injuries to Nathan Rourke, Michael O'Connor, everything else. And so lo and behold, we wake up today, Vernon Adams traded to the BC Lions for their first round pick in the 2023 season. Tremendous excitement. I've been tracking, Farhan's comments all day, Dave Naylor's comments all day in regards to that. I'm really curious what your guys' thoughts are. Posting in the Facebook groups today, talking about, Vernon going. People said, well, here I thought BC was going to make a move or whatever. Some people, Vernon kind of has his detractors. I am certainly not one of them. Vernon has been on the show back preseason last year before the 2022 season. I like Vernon. He's practically my neighbor just down the I-5 corridor in Tacoma. I could probably be at Vernon's house in about 20 minutes. But, really happy for Vernon. I think that BC is built to win this year, regardless of whatever happens with Nathan Rourke, his injury, going to the NFL, kind of all that stuff. BC is loaded up right now, and this just makes too much sense. I didn't think that they were going to ride the Michael O'Connor train out. People were talking, okay, is Chris Trevor going to come back? What's going on with it? But it makes sense. You're never going to get this confluence of everything with, Nathan Rourke being so cheap, them having all the receivers, Lucky Whitehead, Keon Hatcher, Brian Burnham, all of that stuff. So really excited to see Kyle as a Montreal Alouettes. Kyle, if you are welfare check, if you are a Montreal Alouettes fan right now, first, we wake up earlier this week. We have Gary Stern stepping down over the weekend. The co-owner, we found out, minority owner of the Alouettes and kind of the CEO of day-to-day operations stepping down. Now we have Vernon Adams being traded. Tim Capper and Cliffy, are you guys doing okay? All the Alouettes fans really, it's kind of the worst of times right now for the Alouettes. We have Trevor Harris leading the squad over there. They're trying to rebuild. I was really bullish on the Alouettes as of last week. I thought Gary was really rallying the troops there. Trevor was doing okay. I'm not the biggest Trevor Harris guy. I haven't kind of grown over the years with him. I know Rod Peterson is really high on Trevor, but here now we have Vernon Adams gone. And the rumor out that Farhan was reporting today was that Gary Stern had actually maybe been poo-pooing that deal, that didn't want to make that deal. And so now that obviously Gary Stern is out of the picture, we have Vernon Adams heading to BC. The other thing I thought was interesting about the whole Alouette situation, I see Andy Murray logging on here. We'll bring him on in a second. The interesting thing to me about the whole Alouettes thing, we had Gary Stern on the podcast about a month ago now. And I was asking him because that was right when they were, Vernon was getting hurt and Trevor was playing and, Vernon was on the IR list or whatever. And I said, Gary, what are your thoughts as a fan on Trevor Harris and on Vernon Adams? And Gary was like, oh, I love Vernon Adams. My grandchildren want to be with him. And he does, spends all this time, everything. Absolutely love Vernon Adams. And I said, well, what do you think about Trevor Harris? He goes, I don't even think I've actually met Trevor Harris. And I thought that is an interesting situation to have the owner. I know Gary is not local to Montreal, but have the owner of the Alouettes having not met in person the lead quarterback of your franchise. I think is incredibly interesting. We'll bring Andy on here if he's ready. Give me a thumbs up there. We have another quote, Kyle. Kyle's still a fan, more disappointed about Stern stepping away than VA leaving. Let me switch the aspect. No, maybe that's a better aspect ratio. I haven't done that one before. There, you got the vertical video. Andy Murray, my ride or die. What do you make of all this? What is the bigger news? Gary Stern stepping down or Vernon Adams heading to BC?
Well, I think both of those stories tie into Stern either way you look at it, because if you think about it, Stern has been kind of forced, maybe politely or however way they did it, out of a certain role that we thought he would be involved with, and at least certainly in the short term and maybe even in the long term. And as you just mentioned, his vocal support of Vernon Adams during that conversation that you had really spoke volumes to me about where his head was at as far as who he truly maybe saw as the future of the franchise, or maybe even somebody who could come in and still be productive with the Alouettes. And the fact that this is a move that signifies to me that this team, or whoever the other majority ownership of the team is not interested in the opinions of Gary Stern. And in my opinion, this is a warning shot sent his way of saying, hey, look, we don't care. Like, this is not going to work for us. And even if it works for you, it's not necessarily in the best interest of the Montreal Alouettes. So to me, it kind of all ties into that together. So from that perspective, it's very much, in my opinion, the bigger story is about Stern. But as far as the on-field product, obviously it's about Vernon going to BC. And to me, this is a win-now move, because BC was not content with just sitting around and saying, well, we have another Canadian quarterback in the roster. We have Michael O'Connor. We have Antonio Pipkins. Let's see what happens. Well, we kind of saw what happened last week against Saskatchewan. And look, it's maybe a little bit unfair considering that was the first game that both of them had extended action in a contest as far as throwing the ball was. Antonio Pipkin has come in as a runner most of the time. But look, Vernon has the pedigree. He has the experience. He's been around the league for quite a long time. He has led a team to the playoffs. He is somebody that fits the mold more of what they need right now, which is potentially the number one spot in the West. And even if they ultimately don't get it, at least the top two spots. And that's really big as far as hosting, as far as what's going on with the rest of the division. So they had to do it if they were going to consider what their prospects were as far as winning the rest of the season and, quite frankly, making a great cup run, which, again, before the season didn't seem possible, and now is very much possible considering what's happened. But Vernon absolutely had to be the move if they were going to do it.
Well, and I think this finally, and I don't want to poo-poo Matt Baker and the social team over the blind, that, Nathan Rourke's coming back this year, late season, like, I don't see that happening, and I really haven't talked to anybody that has said that they see that happening. I think that Nathan is out for the long term, which is obviously unfortunate. And like Michael Mitchell was saying in our chat, all the Michael O'Connor, truthers. Oh yeah, we're gonna be fine. Whatever. It was like the guy call an ambulance, like, but not for me. Like, it was just kind of the vibe I got. Like, oh, like, we're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. Like, no, like, we really break glass. Let's get Vernon. You wonder. Like, just the timing of it, where, Gary, like, if Gary is still in charge this week, like, what does BC do? Are we really going into the bye week here, like, coming out of, I guess, the bye week with Michael O'Connor? Like, that's what I'm curious. Like, did this, like, was Gary that in front of this? And they're like, we got to get, I just, what I mean? Like, the timing of it is so weird that both of these things, the dominoes fell so close together.
Yeah, it really is. And considering also that they had won back-to-back games, they were starting to finally turn around their season. They were starting to get some momentum finally after having a just horrendous start to the season. And now all of a sudden, as soon as they get success, it's like one step forward, two steps back. All of a sudden now things are the garbage can's on fire again. And it's like, oh, okay, now what? Like, how do we put this out? It's just been a bizarre season in Montreal. I can't remember at least this happening as far as so many random events happening, maybe with like an NFL team, like maybe the Cleveland Browns, like when they had Freddie Kitchens, for example. That whole season was just a nightmare. And I feel like it's one of those seasons for the Alouettes right now where it's like, it's not just the on-field stuff, it's the off-field stuff. And it's at multiple levels. It's the ownership, it's the coaches, it's the players. It's like every single level of the organization, which is not, you never want to have problems at any level, but especially not all three. And it's been a roller coaster for them. And unfortunately for them, the roller coaster has been mostly down.
Yeah, sell more poutine helmets. We need to sell more poutine helmets. Get them. I really did feel like that. We have a question from James. We'll talk more CFL, but James is talking. He's asked twice. Obviously we've been tracking the USFL cuts this week. Players going to the NFL. Then we come out today. Michael Abernathy. He was cut, so now we only have one USFL guy making it to the roster thus far. Obviously, they can wind up on the practice squad. What do you make of, it was 2 yesterday, 1 today. I've had comments, see with that, those 2, it proved that it was worth it because those 2 wouldn't have gotten the shot. I mean, what do you make? I haven't had a chance to talk to you in long form about the USFL only getting 2, now 1 player to the NFL.
I mean, it's hard to make a roster. It really is. It's hard to come in and make an NFL roster. No matter where you slice it, how you do it, it doesn't matter if you're from Europe, if you're from Canada, if you're from the US, it doesn't matter. It's hard to make an NFL roster. Now, did I think there was only going to be 1 out of the initial 52 to make the 53-man roster after all the cuts? I thought there would be a few more. I thought there would at least, I don't know, 6 or 7 at least, maybe 10 if that was being generous. But I thought that was at least a possibility. And look, Turpin was going to. He signed a 3-year deal, and he absolutely lit it up at special teams in the preseason. So yeah, he burned. I mean, he burned the Chargers in one go around in one half in the second game. So there was no doubt about him. But as far as the other names go, I guess. I'm not sure what it is as far as, was it the cumulative fatigue from the season ending late? Was it because of there was just not enough roster spots? Another guy like, for example, Isaiah Zuber, I really thought he had a chance to make the Raiders because they've sort of swapped around the receiver room, guys like Zay Jones not being there, or like they've kind of putting around different spots that maybe Carr could have like a 4th or 5th receiver. I thought he had a good chance. There are a couple of guys. Abernathy obviously was just kind of a shocker at the end of today. And look, a lot of them will have chances, at least hopefully, to make the practice squad. So they're not gone, but I did expect at least a few more to be on the initial cuts. I am a little bit surprised, but maybe it's just bad luck with the draw.
Well, it was crazy because USFL finally, I mean, we've been tracking this all, Mike Mitchell, you got Evan, everyone's been tracking all yesterday. Okay, these players are. USFL finally today tweets, congrats on the 2 players getting signed. And I sent that to you and Max. And then I looked back and the tweet had been deleted. I go, oh, what the hell's going on here? Why are they? And I go, because, Mike got cut. I go, well, yeah, there you go. Maybe I think they're also their website wasn't updated yesterday. It was saying more players make the roster or not. But Thorne here is saying 10 guys already on practice squad. Yeah, I mean, they're going to get picked up that way. I maintain what I've said the last few weeks. I originally thought the April timeline was good for USFL in terms of TV landscape and sports landscape. But now we're learning these players coming into the NFL training camps, they're in shape, but they're very beat up, right? They're ready to go. But I think that, a lot of these coaches looked at them and said, hey, these guys are in shape. We can bring them in for camp. They're perfect. And then we can cut them and move on. That's not to speak to the talent level of any of those guys. It's certainly unfortunate. I believe that the XFL timeline is better getting out in April now and giving you more of a chance to get acclimated into these teams and hopping in. It's like showing up to the party late and you're like, well, we already have our seats filled here. I'm really sorry.
Yeah. And that might be also it too, right? These guys weren't in mini camps and OTAs. That's also another thing. They didn't already have that initial exposure. They have TV exposure. Yes. But look, the coaching staff is going to be looking at the guys that are in front of them at that moment. The scout's job is to go find that information and bring it to them after the fact. But the reality is, well, these are the guys that are on the roster right now. We're trying to evaluate the players that we have right now. That's all the guys that we just drafted. That's the free agents that we brought in, the undrafted free agents. And that's fair. You're trying to evaluate that talent. And some of those guys are going to be held over and going to be kept over for the camp already. So you're already limiting roster spots. Whereas the XFL, at least in the initial run, had guys that were signed on even before that draft in 2020. So you already had some of those roster spots. You had guys who were in the building already getting a good look. That's the thing. Maybe it's length of exposure. Maybe you're more familiar, more comfortable with a guy that you've known for 5 months versus 1 month, right? That's the thing. You have to make a first impression immediately with the coaching staff. And sometimes, and that's the story with all these players, that's right there. That's part of the reason they're in these spring leagues in the first place. They've had this longer runway towards making an impression. And if you don't have enough time to make that impression or to be able to prove people that you have a skill set, then people are going to move on. They have jobs to do. They have decisions to be made. And, it can also just be unfortunate when someone gets signed. I mean, just now, like an hour ago, the Chargers signed running back Tony Michel off of the Miami Dolphins roster, who they cut yesterday, and they cut Larry Roundtree. Roundtree had made the roster. He had made it. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, actually, we have found a better option for our backup running back. Like that happens too. Like you also get just sudden surprise cuts because they say, oh, we have another option. Let's do this instead. So, and now that's the opposite example because Roundtree's been on the roster for 2 years. So that's kind of the opposite of what I'm talking about. But I'm just saying there's multiple reasons why.
We have an XFL question here. I want to do a little more talk about Vernon here, and then we'll get to that. James has a question about the XFL stuff. This is really sink or swim time for Vernon Adams right now. Right. Like I don't, and I love Vernon. He's been on the show. I think he's a tremendous athlete. I know that, we've talked in private chats about some of his decision-making on the field. Right. And like feeling like he has to do too much. It's kind of like that Cody Fajardo mindset, right? Like I have to win. I'm hoping when you have this literally like an all-star future CFL Hall of Fame, like, wide receiver room, right, that he's going to be able to work with. Maybe he doesn't feel like he has to do so much, right? Maybe when he's with Montreal, it's like, shit, man, like I gotta make a play here. I gotta go, big play VA or whatever, right? This name. What do you like? I know you're a big Vernon guy. I know Evan, like when I messaged you guys last night, I said you're gonna be really excited tomorrow talking about the BC Lions. What do you make of Vernon like this time now? Like we gotta go.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think he does try to play out of his element too much sometimes. Can he make some of those plays? Yes, I have seen him make some like astounding plays. Obviously, he went to my university. I watched him in person for an entire year at the University of Oregon, and then I think he had a lot of talent in front of him and utilized it very well. He also made a lot of just dazzling plays around that squad. And when he was at Eastern Washington, he was also tremendous. So obviously, it helped that he had a guy like Cooper Kupp to throw to. But that's the thing. If he has talent, I think he can do a really good job. And he has so many weapons with BC. Oh, my God, their receiving core is just packed. You have James Butler in the backfield with you. You have a good offensive line. I mean, this is the best weaponry he's had in years. And I think that's a big thing. So you're right. If he doesn't have to play out of his element, I think he can be tremendous. And again, he has great legs. That was one part of Rourke's game that, obviously gets kind of under talked about is his legs. He had a knack for being able to extend plays and also sometimes run out of the pocket. Not too much, obviously, because he didn't want to get injured, which, that happened, but that happened inside the pocket. But obviously, like, VA can do that as well. Vernon Adams can be able to run out of the pocket as well. So that having that extra element really helps. So, yeah, as long as he doesn't try to do too much, I think he can have tremendous success in this offense.
What I'm trying to figure out is Max is talking, Max is chiming in, Vernon had talent, had everything going on there. I just like if this happened any other way, right? With the cap and the CFL, and I would love to have Farhan or someone needs to kind of like chime in on, would this be possible preseason, or is just now like we're mid-season, we've let some guys go, or people are on, we're able to like, some guys are on injury reserve, or we're trading cap or the draft pick for next year. Like I'm curious what the mathematics behind that go. Like I've been told the salary cap is a myth, right, in the NFL, and I certainly think it is sometimes in the CFL. But I'm curious, like would this have happened any other way, right? And then now we just have this confluence of everything kind of coming right now.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends. Like, I mean, it certainly helps that they haven't really been paying another veteran quarterback. And isn't that interesting, though? The whole narrative this whole offseason was about them not signing a veteran quarterback for some amount of money so that they could make sure that in case something happened and Rourke wasn't good enough, that they'd have a backup. Well, Rourke was good enough. So now the fact that they have that flexibility that they can actually do that now and actually make this kind of trade speaks volumes to the potential of having that cap space available. I don't know what the number is going to be exactly or how it's going to impact them. Also, I'm not sure how that factors in as far as like his time spent on the injury list as well for all the time that he was on that for Montreal. So it depends on that. But I mean, the fact that they have the ability to do this because they're not already paying some other quarterback on the roster says a lot. And I think they were prepared for that to happen. So whatever way they're going to finagle the cap, we'll see. But I think it shows to me that they had that roster flexibility to be able to do that. And that's a credit to them. It's a credit to them for the believe in Rourke, and then to be able to recognize the situation afterward and say, okay, this is still possible because of the moves we made previously.
Yeah, I remember when the rumors were coming out that they were looking at Trevor Harris. BC was looking at Trevor Harris. I thought, I can't deal. I have Carson Wentz with the Commanders right now. Like, I can't deal with just and Trevor Harris is fine, but just like a vanilla, like just white toast, just like fine. Like Trevor Harris is fine. Carson is fine. But I want some excitement. I'm glad they stuck it out with Rourke. But now we get the best of everything because now we get Vernon Adams. Like you said, Eastern Washington. I went to Gonzaga, so that's basically the closest college program I had. With Cooper Kupp and Bo Levi Mitchell there as well. I had no idea that Eastern was such a like a factory for CFL talent. So.
Right. By the way, can we get if let's say Vernon plays really well, okay? If he plays really well and they win a bunch of games, can we have a combined CFL MLP award? Like we'll take Rourke and Adams, just combine them and just do that, because the most exciting play potentially out of the entire league is going to be from the quarterback spot from one team. So I don't know. It would be kind of fun if they could do that. Obviously, that won't. The media doesn't work that way. They're going to vote for one guy. It's probably going to be Kolaros. Like that's what's going to happen. Most likely, but I don't know. It's just like it's such a bummer if you had two different guys having one having an immaculate season and then another one coming in and potentially being really good too. It'd just be a shame because the combined numbers are probably going to look really good by the end of the season now for the BC Lions.
Well, I think you got to give either Rick Campbell or Neil McAvoy, someone at the BC, someone over there in the staffing department, give them the MOP for all of this. I mean, putting together, I think Neil McAvoy, I think being able, I had him on preseason as well, like being able to put together this and finagle. And like I said, I know with Rourke and everything that they had, lots of extra money. They decided not to go out and get a veteran. I'm really glad about that. I would always gamble on something that I don't, and obviously Mazzoli got hurt and that was unfortunate, but I don't want to pay up for Mazzoli. I know what Mazzoli is right now. We know what Dane Evans is now, which is not very good. I would rather gamble on Rourke. I'm glad they did. Now, obviously that didn't work out. And now we've got our next best thing. I don't know, if Vernon, and then I want to get this XFL stuff too, but if Vernon doesn't go to BC, right, and we do this, what does the BC's rest of the season look like? Are we just riding it out on the hope and the prayer? I don't know what the other backup plan was. I'm really curious.
It probably would have been Pipkins. It would have been him writing it out. And like I said, Pipkins, I like him as an athlete. I think seeing him try to be more productive in the pass game, he did do some nice things at the end of the game. The fourth quarter, he played much better than the first part of the game. So I will give him that credit. Maybe he would have been able to kind of fit more into the offense. But look, I think it would have been, you're looking at maybe a 10 or 11 win team by the end of the season. I mean, you're looking at a playoff team, but it would have been, what it would have been? It would have been this happened to the Arizona Cardinals. I think it was the 2014 season. They were having a really good year and they had Carson Palmer and he was playing really well. And then he tore his ACL and he was out the rest of the season. And then you just started seeing then they had, I think it was Drew Stanton. He started playing and he was actually playing well. And then he got hurt. And then Ryan Lindley was playing for them and they had to muscle their way into the playoffs. And they put out just the most atrocious offense against the Panthers in the wild card round. It started to kind of feel like that to me where I'm like, oh no, are we going to have this really sluggish offensive performance? They're going to have to win these games in defensive mode. And then they're going to get in the first round and they're not going to have enough firepower. It felt like that kind of, it was starting to slow to a crawl. But yeah, I mean, look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe O'Connor comes back, plays really well. Maybe Pipkins plays really well. I don't know. But clearly, they're not making this move. They didn't think that they had their own evaluation in the talent of what they had already. I mean, that's the whole point that Rourke got his start, right? That's the whole reason they put all their stock in Rourke. So to me, this is the opposite, where it's they know, or at least they think they know, they had to make this move.
I literally, because we had just done our pre-live show, remember we had you and Jamal and Gordon and everything. We had just done our show. I go downstairs. I'm watching the BC Lions Saskatchewan game. Dorothy's watching, and I'm telling her, we could go to the Grey Cup this year. I mean, BC, at least we're going to make a deep run in the playoffs. I want to go do a live show at the divisional. I don't have a lot of weddings late in the year this year. So I said, I'm going to go. I'm really excited about this. And it wasn't 10 minutes later, all that happened with Nathan. And I was like, I mean, it really was the confidence. Hawaiian Punch says, with the Roar getting about 8,000, BC was comfortable. Yeah, no, but they paid up. Like they paid up for Lucky, they paid up for Brian, Keon Hatcher. I mean, they signed a lot of, they utilized that money. I thought they did a really good job. I mean, I'm sure they weren't sitting there with like surplus of cash. I think that they paid up for a lot of that stuff. But yeah, just really unfortunate for BC, but I think this is exciting. I think this is a good storyline right now. I mean, Gary Stern isn't necessarily the best storyline, so I think this is maybe a little bit more positive. I want to do XFL here a little bit too. Any other thoughts on Vernon or Gary? Any of that stuff?
Well, I'll speak on the BC Lions really quick. I think their investment strategies have been fantastic. Like you said, they paid the right guys. They paid Whitehead and Hatcher. They're Damar Doman obviously is putting in all this capital to try and get more fans in the stands. Which, by the way, they should continue to buy tickets because if this like, I thought there was going to be a drop off after obviously Rourke not being here because he's the star. But now if you get Vernon in the building, look, all the Eastern Washington and Oregon alumni get to the stadium. Like, go to Vancouver. It's not that far away. Go over there. You can still see Vernon Adams, an alumni. And I just really am impressed with how BC has handled themselves as an organization. Like, everything they've done up to this point in the last calendar year has been tremendous. They've made all the right moves. They've been really good about evaluating their own talent, where they're at as far as operating in the Vancouver space. Like, they've done so much, like, at every level. I'm really impressed with them, and I think this is the right move. I mean, it's tremendous. I can't believe I didn't even think this was a possibility. I didn't think that they would get Vernon Adams. Even that didn't cross my mind. And then you sent out the little thing last night. And you're like, hey, there might be, who knows, something that's coming down the pipeline. I was like, I don't know. So it's interesting. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah. So Stern, look, Montreal, I feel bad for. I really do. I think they need to just hit the reset button. I don't know if that means getting rid of Machocha or telling Stern that he's no longer welcome. I don't know, but like, they need to hit a hard reset button because this is not working at all in every phase of the game and off the field.
Machocha was on. He had a quote today. CFL News tweeted out, and it was him talking about Gary Stern, his Twitter interaction. He's like, "Well, I didn't like how he vocalized a lot of the inner workings of the team, like on Twitter, or whatever." I'm like, I just didn't even have time to come up with a response. I wanted that, I don't like how you manage the team right now and keep having this many penalties as Kahari Jones. Like, I don't think Machocha is in any position to be like throwing shade right now. I mean, I know they're coming off a couple big wins, and I know it really felt like the winds were changing for the Alouettes. I called them my team in the East. I certainly, I don't think the Argos could be my team. I think Mike Mitchell has that under wraps, but I was really feeling good for the Alouettes, and I'm really sad to kind of see everything this week with them. So.
Mm-hmm.
We have a comment here, and then I want to talk XFL stuff here too. But so happy Brian's got it's BRYAN James, but that's okay. Brian is healthy again. Hopefully, we see him playing some ball in February or maybe spring with the USFL. What is the contract like since he was injured? Brian is doing good. I've actually chatted a little bit with Brian because we're getting ready. I'm sending him. If you guys, if you're not subscribed, we have a bunch of people. I don't know, middle of the day here. Maybe we have some new viewers on, but we have a spring league ball that was the league that existed that was kind of now has evolved into the USFL. Brian was the MVP that year. I have an authentic game played ball from one of the games that Brian went crazy. I think he got like 4 touchdowns, 300 yards. He told me Brian's going to sign that ball. We're going to give that away. So Brian's been really good. Brian is excited. He's on the mend. He tweeted, he was either early this week or late last week. He's back 100%. So thoughts on Brian Scott? And then I want to talk XFL here.
I want to see him healthy and playing again. I think a healthy Brian Scott may have led Philadelphia to a championship. And not saying Case Cookis couldn't have either. I think he was also doing really well. It sucked that he got hurt as well. It was just terrible luck for both of them. But I think Philadelphia clearly had the best QB room in the entire league. It's evident now. I hope that he gets another shot to be able to show his wares and be able to kind of perform in wherever league that is. I think he would be awesome to be able to come back on your show maybe even and give you a shout out. That'd be awesome. I think that'd be cool. But yeah, I just want to see him play again.
I think Brian, we're on the radar. I would say, in terms of high profile, hopefully, fan podcasts, all that stuff. We had some comments I was reading here about Gary Stern. And I will say, I don't know if I told everyone this. So we did the live show against BC. And I was trying to get Gary on because he'd been tweeting all day about the Alouettes. I think they were playing the Ticats that weekend. And I tweeted like, hey, Gary, come on the show. And I sent him a DM. I said, hey, Gary, because he knows me, or I've been on the show. I go downstairs to watch the game, and he's responding. He's like, oh, hey, like, I just saw this. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'll definitely come on again. And I'm like, tweeting, DMing with Gary, like, oh, no worries. Like, man, this is, and he was like, messing back, like, oh, that was a great play by BC. Like, because we were kind of watching the game. I'm like, I'm going to be in like a texting like relationship with the CFL owner here. And then we can't have nice things. So next week, Gary steps down. Like I was that close to really having the end of just like, let me text Gary right now and see what he thinks about this. Really is kind of a shame.
It's a testament to your abilities to get in into people's cradles, I guess. But it's a good thing, though. Honestly, like it's a skill that I admire because it's something that not everyone has, like the audacity, I guess, to approach those kinds of people. And I think that you've been able to get such an in with people like that in the CFL has been fantastic. And be able to talk to a real live owner. I mean, that's awesome. Yeah, and you've had him, you've had Amar Doman. You kind of have like a roadmap, I guess, to get to every owner in the league, I suppose, or every at least major owner in the league. And so I think that's really cool that you've been able to establish that. Unfortunately, now this has happened, but like I think though a new leaf will turn and you'll find another opportunity. At least I think Amar's still in your corner. I'm not mistaken. I mean, I would think he is, considering you're the biggest Lions fan in America.
Amar's got an Instagram. We need Amar on Twitter. I think I've said that before. I think we need to get Amar Doman, owner of the BC Lions. I think we need to get him on Twitter. That is where he does good. Like he'll post, and he had like his pregame, or I guess it was the postgame speech for the BC Lions. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago now. I mean, Amar is great. I think Amar is really invested that way. I saw he had tweeted. It was before the game last week, like at his office. Hey, come on down. I was texting Matt Baker about that because like he and Nick, who are both friends of the show, had to go to like Amar's office to film all that, him doing the call to action. I just thought that was great. Like I want to see the owner of the team, like, come on down tonight. Come on down. I'm excited. But we need to get Amar on Twitter. That is the thing. James, I think James was crying at the thought that Gary Stern would no longer text you ever. James had a question earlier, and I want to know your thoughts on this as well, Andy. Okay, it is August 31st. Tomorrow is September. When do we get XFL team names? The NFL kicks off next Thursday. 8 days away, the NFL kicks off. I will tell you, I am already emailing. I reach out to all my guests. Hey, would you like to come on the show? Would you like to come on? A lot of people can't talk now. I'm in NFL mode. Don't have, really nice, but just like don't have time. Like this is a real thing. Like I know people think like, oh, the casuals, they'll find a way. Like a lot of the beat reporters that cover the NFL do not have time for anything else once the season starts. I've talked a while. What do you think?
I'm going to say it might be the week of the 12th. So, okay. So that night of the first Monday Night Football game is September 12th. And I think, now I believe wasn't there like a information about the coaching staffs being announced, or the full coaching staffs being announced on the 12th or 13th? Am I mistaken?
I don't know if it's rumored. I don't know if that's like.
I'm not sure if that's a rumor or not. I thought there was something about that. I thought I heard maybe somewhere in the pipeline, but I would think that it would be the week of the 12th or the 13th that something like that would happen, where it's going to be like, imagine this. Oh, so it's either going to be this. I think they're going to wait for the NFL season to kick off, and then they might be able to do the announcement. I saw one idea is that they might do the announcement on Monday Night Football because they are very much closely tied to ESPN, and ESPN has all of their fingerprints in that. And if I'm not mistaken, they always try to put on a Monday Night Football game on ABC. I have to double check the schedule, but if they could do that, I have to look at the schedule, but if they did that on an ABC night, then maybe that would be really beneficial for the league, and they'd be able to get out their message to an even wider audience. So I would think it might be around that week, at least as far as timing goes. That would be my guess. That's just an educated guess. I'm not really sure about it, but that's when I would think it'd be, like the week of the 12th, somewhere between the 12th and the 17th of September, I would think. If no one's really telling you anything, then it might just be radio silence until then. But that would be my guess.
My question is, first of all, I think it's the same thing with The Rock with the Super Bowl, where they're like, "Oh, The Rock's going to be at the Super Bowl. Like they're going to use him talking XFL." Like they're not doing that. They're talking about the NFL. They're not talking about the XFL at the Super Bowl. Like, yeah, they're going to be on ESPN and Monday Night Football. That first game is that's the big Russell Wilson and the Broncos return to Seattle. I've been told things are coming at that game. I don't think it's team names, logo, stuff like that. Like, what are we going to do? We're going to drop that in the pre-show of the, I don't see that happening. But my question is, XFL has so recently started hiring these local positions and social media. Like, I think it could still be another month or two. I mean, they got to, like, are you going to announce the team names and then be like, "Hey, Bill, okay, we're going to hire you now to run"? Like, I think you'd almost want to have those people in place in Seattle and St. Louis and everything else, and then announce the team names. I think it could be even further away than 2 weeks.
That's also a possibility. I think at least that week it might be like an announcement trailer or something like, "Hey, we've got stuff coming at this time," or we're really excited about this. Come join the league, in January or something like that. Come to training camp. Like it might be that possibly. It might just be an announcement for like stuff further on down, or I don't know, the draft. But I don't know if it's necessarily going to be the team names either. It could. You make a good point about that. Like it could just be something where they wait for everyone to be in place and then do it. So, like I don't know, the end of September. But I do think there's going to be some sort of announcement that week of something. I just don't know what. But it could be like that week. It could be during that broadcast because again, it's in ESPN's best interests to keep the cycle going and keeping the interest going is saying like, "Hey, look, we have all this football programming. Guess what? It doesn't end after the season." So because I mean, after Monday Night Football, they don't, in the first set of playoff games, they don't really have anything else beyond the wild card round. So after that, they can really start to put more into that after the wild card round. So they can start to prepare people to be like, "Hey, look at this. We still have more programming from football after the season." So
Max says, if I had to guess, we're going to get a Wednesday announcement sometime in September. Well, quite frankly, the team names aren't what I'm worried about. Well, Max, then you need to tell us what you are worried about because that doesn't help me to know. Because a lot of people are worried about team names. Because, I was talking with Mike. We were talking to the thing, and he said, the remainder of the coaching staff is coming. I go, that is not like, no, most people don't care about like the assistant running backs coach or like whatever. Like they don't. Like we care, but like even like even some of this stuff we're talking these signings in the group chat. I'm like, guys, I don't even care. Like I don't know all these. It's hard even for me, and this is like what I do. It's really hard for me to like let's get invested in. It's hard. It's a lot going on. I want to talk. I'm waiting on Max's response on that. But Andy, I know you were excited that we did have XFL news today that Brian Westbrook Sr. joined the XFL. I want to get his title right. Director of Player Engagement. I know you were excited about that. What do you make of the XFL's new hire today, and Brian Westbrook?
I love Brian Westbrook. I mean, when he was a player, he was awesome. But as a person, he seemed even better. And I think the fact that he's getting involved with this venture speaks a lot of volumes to his experience in the NFL as a player and as somebody who's worked with probably player and personnel directors and got that kind of experience in after his career. This is only another win for the NFL, for the XFL. And I think it does show, though, that they continue to employ people that have been heavily involved and had extensive experience in the NFL world. Obviously, they seem to be very interested in keeping those kinds of people involved, much more, in line with like the Brandon Russes, for example. And so I think it's really great that someone like him with such personality and able to speak upon his experience as a running back and as a player and be able to kind of fold himself into this league. I think it's great. It's wonderful. I'm glad to see him again. I really enjoyed hearing from him and watching him. So it's only good. It can only do good PR for the league. But it is, though, interesting, again, like I'm saying, just keeping all these NFL people, bringing on more people from the bigger league into the XFL. It kind of shows, but you would think there would be that partnership considering like their ties to ESPN and then also the NFL Alumni Academy. So it makes sense, right? So you can continue that pipeline of like people involved as NFL alumni, whether they're in the academy or they're just NFL alumni by themselves.
Max says it's September tomorrow. We still don't have loads of info at this time. The last go around, there is time, but I worry about is marketing on the ground. That's who's going to bring in real fans, not clicks, and then everyone forgets. I want to comment on that, but I will say, like, and this will be, Mr. Negative, anti-USFL here, but to talk XFL, do we need like another executive at this point? Like, I get it. Like, I get all the, but like, okay, we got Brian. Like, this is so Westbrook will be involved in all aspects, I'm reading this on the website, of the league's player engagement, including developing and leading initiatives to enhance professional development in areas such as media relations, continued education, total wellness, and financial well-being. That is all awesome. It's great. I love all that stuff. But like, do we need that in year one, like and do we need that hire in August 31st when we're not kicking out? Like, that's what I'm concerned here. Like, we have a lot of people that are working for this league. It feels like, so my wife's friend used to they were going to have a nonprofit. And they were like, I can't remember what they were going to sell, but they kept finding women and they're like, hey, do you want to be on our board of directors? And they're like, oh yeah, like, I want to be like, that sounds great. Like, I want to be. And they kept adding, I'm like, you're you're just adding people. We're just adding. I don't know what that's doing at the current point right now. Here we go. Max, I don't think there's anything wrong with having executive appeal to players who you have a league competing with you with talent. What do you think about that? Am I totally off the rocker here?
I think it sounds to me like you're worried about there being too many voices or too many cooks in the kitchen. It sounds like, which I totally understand. That being said, I think that the specific points that they're in are not. I don't think it's affecting like the overall daily operations as far as like who's making the decision making. I mean, I think it's very clear who's calling the shots. Like, it's going to be from ownership. It's going to be in conjunction with Redword Capital, and then it's going to be Russ Brandon. And I think that's where it all trickles down to. It's not going to be all these other people who are being brought on board. Like, they're being told by their bosses what to do. I think that's not a problem. I think that's, look, they have to have these employees that they really want to consider themselves as a true league and consider themselves as a full blown entity. I don't think it's based on just, let's just bring a couple more names in and just see what happens. Like, I think it's going to be, this is the role they have, this is what they're going to do, and this is what our vision is going forward. And I get it because they haven't had a full season yet. We haven't been able to do anything yet as far as like even getting people on the grass. But I think that they clearly have a vision and they want to know who is doing what. And so that there's less things for other people to deal with. I mean, it's nice to have things that you don't have to deal with right at work, and just instead of being given, obligatory things that don't really factor into your payroll. So I think that's something that is important to keep in mind. But I get your concern, but I understand who they're bringing in, why they're bringing them so far.
I got to go both ways here. I mean, I try, and I know I get Mr. Negative, and I think I got some interesting next week. I think it'll be good here, Mr. Anti USFL. But, like, I have bemoaned forever, like USFL. We didn't even tweet out the people that made the roster till today because they're, I'm sure working on whatever Fox stuff for the NFL. Like, USFL was so cheap, and the XFL, like, we're hiring all these people right now. Like, I just don't like. I have to call it both ways. Where if the USFL is too light, I firmly now think the XFL is too heavy. I know that people, Max is talking. We got Oliver Luck salary, all that stuff. I know it's just like, it just feels like heavy. I don't know. I just feel like everyone is sitting in a room right now. Like, what do we like? Do you remember Dane Cook used to have a joke, and he was like, my girlfriend is such an exaggerator. She'd be like, Dane, there was a fire outside and there was like 1,000 firefighters. And he's like, there's not 1,000 firefighters. They would all be running around like, there's 1,000 of us. Like, what are we doing? I'm like, that's what I feel like the XFL is right now. And there's so many of us. Like, what are we doing here?
Well, I'm glad you think of it as like a house fire. I'm not sure exactly what kind of disaster they're putting out. Like, I don't know exactly what kind of fire they're putting out here, Reed, but no, I get it. Like, it sounds like you're making it out seem like it's this ant farm quality where it's just like, oh my God, there's all these things running around. Like, what's going to happen? It's like pouring water down the ant farm. I get it. But like, I don't know. I think it's not so. I don't think it's so unreasonable to think that they have a plan involved. And again, does that plan may involve more people than we'd like to see, or at least I still think it's just news that isn't pertinent to what people want to hear first. Like, it's something that, okay, like what if, so in your mind, like, what if they announced this after they said all the team names and the logos and the players and all that? Would that make you feel better? Because like, that seems to me like, I get that maybe it's just the timing of it, of why are we hearing this? Why are we hearing from this person and not hearing about this first? It just, to me, that's been more of like the of an impatient angle, but that's just me.
I don't care about the timeline that way. I just care I think that they, again, like USFL is caveman, man has football, like play on field. They're like, okay, like I understand. And the XFL is like, we have to find the very first season. We have to find like the best talent that we've ever had. Like we're going to go to Hawaii and we're going to HBC. Like we're going to do all these showcases and then backup showcases and then the showcase for the kickers. And then we're going to have and then John Murphy he's going to have, academy people. And like, we're going to have all this stuff. USFL didn't have to do any of that. They fielded 8 teams, and the play was pretty good. I mean, not one criticism I've had against the USFL has ever been the quality of play on the field. I mean, we can bemoan, okay, which quarterbacks were better, okay, slightly, but I mean, you got 51 guys on the NFL rosters. Clearly, the talent was good. I know people got cut, and there's politicking and all that we talked about before, but like, USFL didn't have to do any of that. And they were at least able to feel like, do we need to do all of that this year? That is my question, is like, we are shooting our load. And I mean, it is all or nothing on this right now. I'm very passionate about this. I'm just deciding I'm very passionate about
this. Clearly. I don't know. Like, I think sometimes it still boils down to how well do you market your product, and it's not always about what's being sold, but how you sell it. And like, to me, I just think that that's kind of more the angle the XFL is going for. Now, whether people buy into it or not, we'll see. But like, they clearly are putting much more stock into, okay, we need to present it this certain way, or else people are not going to keep with us the long term. Now, this is the interesting thing. Like, if the USFL continues to scale up its operations, do more people come back from the first season and say, oh, cool, I like what I saw last week? See, but that's the thing. Like, the XFL might be looking at that, saying like, "No, we need to make a first impression, or else we're going to lose these people forever." So that's the other angle of it. It's like, well, you need to impress somebody first, or else forget it. Like that fan base or that type of fan is not going to return to the fold. I mean, there's people right now. I've had people come up to me and tell me like, "Yeah, I watched the USFL, it was interesting," and then they watch a preseason game and be like, well, that was much faster than the USFL. So there's clearly a disparity in talent. So it makes me think like, okay, are you not going to watch that next year because you see those disparities so closely related to each other in such a short amount of time? Like, that's the other thing I wonder about too.
And Max, again, and I understand. I am emotional. I wear my heart. Dorothy has told me she loves me because I am very emotional. Wear my heart on my sleeve. Because Max, you never get a second chance to make your first impression. And I've said that of the USFL many times, that I think that they got all the people week 1, and then the quality of play wasn't there for all of the teams. So I absolutely I go with all that. I just. What is we're working with continued education, total wellness, financial well-being. Like, I think that is all wonderful things. I just don't know if we need that August 31st here with kickoff in February. Like, that is my thing of priorities. I don't know. Max says we'll get tangible things done. So now that to circle back to kind of the thesis here, we're talking, and I'll let you go here. Andy's got to be off it too. Having USFL got 51 guys on the roster, even though it's been cut back now, does that bode well? Does that change the mindset of alt football leagues, of player talent, of any of that stuff going forward?
Yeah, you mean as far as how many people actually made it in the initial cutoff?
Yeah, I mean, now that we've seen, 51 cut to 1 and everything, like, does this help USFL season 2? Does this help XFL? Does it help the whole kind of general landscape here?
I mean, I think on paper it doesn't look great. I've had it told both ways. Like, it's, oh my God, nobody made the roster. But there's still, again, the potential for the practice roster, which is kind of the reality for a lot of these guys. It's just staying on the practice squad for the rest of eternity and making money that way, which, again, is a good deal for them. Like, they get to make the roster and be able to support themselves, healthily. Look, as far as for the people, as I was saying, like, we've kind of poked fun a little bit at people saying, like, this is going to ruin my team in the USFL because they're going to take away all my talent. We're not going to have these people coming back. Well, guess what? Wish granted, you got a lot of people back. Congratulations. So, like, you're going to get a lot of these players going back to those. So as far as the consistency of the product for the USFL, I guess it's a good thing. But, again, it's for the well-being of the players. I will I will hit the table. I will bang the table for that. It is about them. It is not about us. I like as a fan, of course, I want to be, as a media member, I want to be able to enjoy this stuff. But as also, I just think it's about where's the best place for this player. If they want to be on the practice squad and make money and do nothing, great. If they want to be on an NFL roster or die trying and don't make it, fine. If they want to be in the spring leagues and really think that's the way they want to do it because they just want to play, great, fantastic. It's about having the options for them. But for the perception wise, as you were saying, I don't know. I think it's not like the greatest look that all of them didn't make that. But again, it's really gonna boil down to the semantics of the start of the season and what that answer, the answer to that question really won't be answered, at least partially, until next year. We won't know if that was a factor or not. And that's kind of the biggest thing right now. It's is this just something that is an anomaly, or was it bad luck, or is it because of how late the season was? We don't know the answer to that question. That's the problem. But I'm sure everyone's going to draw their own conclusions now until then.
Yeah, I had a lot of people comment that, like you said, this is destroying my Stallions team. And I'm like, nobody cares, at all. Nobody cares. These players need to do what's best for their lives, their families, their well-being, their safety, their health. Nobody cares that your 2022 Stallions are going to it doesn't matter. This is what these leagues are. It's entertaining. It's exciting. We get to know the players, but ultimately they got to figure out and move on. I will say, interesting. I didn't want to tweet today because I don't want to poo-poo this USFL thing too much, because I do feel really bad for the players and you want the guys. But what did Mike say? 10 XFL 2020 players made the rosters this year. One USFL. It's interesting. It's interesting. But no, I feel really bad. And that's why I tweeted last night. It actually got a lot of traction. My tweet about it's a really sobering fact. We root for these leagues and we cheer for these players, and two guys out of what would have been 50, 150 guys. Right, in the USFL with 50-man rosters times 8 was at 400. So you have 1/8 made it, and then one of that 1/400th made it on. It's really hard. It's really hard to get on. Any spring football plans and mad. Their players are going to the G5 fans being mad. The guys made it go to the job. Appreciate them while you have them. Any other thoughts on that, Andy? Before we let you get out of here.
Well, like I said, we need to continue to be giant proponents of these players as far as having other options. Most of the reporting from the NFL side is going to be, well, these guys got cut and that's it for them. No, it's not. It's not the end of the road anymore. It used to be. It used to be at the end of the road for a lot of these guys, because guess what? No one was, if they weren't willing to go up to Canada, that's it. That's not the case anymore. There are options for people. Either, again, they want to stay on the practice squad. Do they want to play in the XFL? Do they want to play in the USFL? Do they want to go to the IFL? They want to play in the indoor league. Do they want to go to Europe, play the the Elf League? There are options. The whole point of this is that there are alternative options for all these players in different facets, different coaches, different schemes, different systems, different lifestyles, if they want to pursue it. Not, I didn't make the NFL, my life is over. That's not how it's going to go anymore. And I think it's on our best interest to continue to remind people that hey, look, even though this didn't happen for you, you didn't get the biggest dream, there is still other dreams that you can pursue and continue to play this game instead of having to hang up the cleats forever. So that's kind of my biggest thing in trying to remind people of that, whether it be fans or NFL media members or alternative media members, all of that. It's continuing to keep that message alive.
So Andy's got to go here. He's got to go back to teaching, right? Get ready for school here at 2. If anyone wants to hop in, if anyone wants to hop in and call, the link is at the top. Otherwise, we'll close off here. So this is kind of your minute warning. I'll post one more time because I just can't sit here and talk to myself all day. But Andy's got to head out. I have one more comment, and then if no one wants to hop on, but I'll post the link. And Andy, get out of here. I don't want you to get fired. But how dare Adam Schefter, when he tweeted yesterday, are you heading out? Oh, okay, Andy's gone. I said, how dare Adam Schefter tweet, talking about the player cuts and everything, and saying, this is going to be the end of a lot of these players are going to make it, and this is going to be the end of the road for a lot of these guys. It's you work for ESPN. You have the XFL. NFL also works with the NFL Alumni Academy. That is a route for these players to go. I even saw the NFL Academy tweet that and go, well, we're giving players opportunities. I thought that was really short-sighted by Adam. I think like he and like Rap Sheet, whatever, try to get like their jollies off, like, oh, we're the NFL and like it's either here or nothing. But it's just not the case anymore. So if anyone else has any questions, comments, I posted the link. Want to hop on? Andy had to get back to work. Happy to answer any questions, or else I'll probably head out here soon. I have a big show coming up on Friday. Let me get my guest list out here because I've been adding and going back and forth with this all day. Brendan Kofi is coming on with Sportico. I'm going to be talking with him about the XFL investment, them looking for investors, equity stake, and all that. Brendan came on. I had the article a couple of weeks ago. The XFL, looking to give that away. Give part of the equity away for that. And then Matthew Schinetti with CFL on TSN is going to be coming on. I'm sure we're going to get lots of thoughts with him about the Gary Stearns of it all and the Alouettes, all of that stuff. So Matthew's going to be coming on. And then Rick Saratella, he is an NFL scout, works with all that stuff. He's going to be coming on to talk through, the NFL scouting and players getting cut, heading to the XFL. And then I have Corey Grace coming on, a punter for the Calgary Stampeders. Really appreciate them over there setting that up. So it should be a really good Mac the Knife says, wait, did I really? Yeah, two. It's actually one now. Micah Abernathy got cut from the Packers today. So it was Kevontae Turpin is the only player. He signed a 3-year deal with the Cowboys, I believe, as a wide receiver and kickoff returner. Kevontae is with the Packers, or with the Cowboys. And then, yes, it was 1 of 51. A lot of those guys are making their way onto practice squads today, literally as we record this. So I would kind of track. Mike Mitchell is doing a good job of that. I know Evan Wilsmore he is doing a good job as well, kind of tracking. It's like, guys got to get through the waivers and they got to get let go. And then the other teams got to pick them up. So there's still a lot of shifting back and forth that way. Any of the other USFL guys could still make it on here, if someone gets let go and they want to get picked back up. But currently that is the option as we go. Any other comments? Anything else? Yeah, big show tomorrow or a big show Friday, talking the XFL investment stuff, talking, NFL players getting cut, headed to the, USFL, XFL, or CFL. And then we're talking all this crazy CFL news this week with Gary Stern, Vernon Adams, all of that stuff. James says, do you think the reason a lot of these players got cut is visibility? I mean, they probably saw the fact the XFL full crowds. I don't think that matters. I think, and we said before, USFL, you're getting out too late. If you don't make the playoffs, it's at the end of June. If you're playing through the championship, you're getting out, 4th of July weekend. XFL, their next section of training camps, all that starts right after that. It's just really hard to latch on. I think a lot of these guys are really beat up. They've just played the last 10, 12 weeks of professional football. Look at Case Cookus. Case would have definitely at least, had tryouts and made it onto a practice squad, just based off his performance for the year. He was hurt. Obviously, Brian Scott was hurt. Case was the biggest example of that. If here's someone that really could have made an impact, heading into the NFL. Rat Max says scout see film everywhere once you're in reach of that. Yeah, no, I don't think it's the visibility. I don't think it's the crowds. I mean, I think we poo-pooed on that, and I certainly had enough negative things to say about the USFL and the crowds and all that stuff. But I don't think that had to do with it. I think scouts, I don't think pay attention to that sort of stuff. Any other comments? I would love anyone else to hop on here. Otherwise, I'm going to head out here. I got to edit some corporate video stuff here. It's about 2:00 Pacific, but really appreciate it. I just thought this was a fun time today, hopping on. I've been sitting here ruminating with the Vernon Adams news since last night when that was kind of sent to me. Kind of cool to feel like I was in the inside loop a little bit. I don't want to divulge my source, but I thought that was kind of cool getting the inside tip on all of that stuff and kind of being able to tease a little bit. I didn't want to tweet anything though. I didn't want to get anyone in trouble, but I was sharing stuff with Andy and everyone over at the our alt football media group. Any other comments? Anything else? I really appreciate you guys. Good viewership today. I didn't know what to expect. Thought there could be 2 people on. It could end up being quite a few more than that. So I really appreciate that. But I don't want the takeaway of the USFL, the players, only one making it. I don't want the takeaway to be like this didn't work or this isn't successful. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what the XFL does. Does their timing work better? I mean, this is a multi-year thing. Coaches now have to, maybe they're be more accustomed to keeping an eye on the USFL, XFL kind of, in their scouting plans, all that stuff. But I wouldn't look at it as like the USFL was a failure by any means. I mean, I think giving these guys, paying them, giving them opportunities, letting them play the game they love. Scooby Wright, right? Here's someone that was out of football, probably wasn't going to play again. Enjoyed coming back. Bruno Reagan, XFL guy, he was with, God, who the hell is he with the USFL? Generals? I can't remember. I mean, like these guys maybe thought that they were out, except they didn't work. Mac, I would define success. I would define, they had 12 weeks of TV. Everyone got paid. They didn't renege on their hotel bills that we've seen previous spring leagues do. You employed a lot of coaches. You employed a lot of refs. You employed a lot of staff, people that that work the stadiums. I don't think I wouldn't say that at all. I wouldn't say it wasn't a success at all. I mean, the CFL I think had one player assigned to an NFL camp this year. I certainly wouldn't call the CFL a failure by any means. So I don't need to get on here and be USFL homer now if that's kind of what this is turning into. But anyway, any other comments? Anything? Gary Sturm, BC, USFL, NFL, anything else? Jerry Television says crazy trade. Yeah, I like it though. Only in the CFL. Starting quarterback traded. What are we at? Week is it week 13 now? 13, 14 here at the CFL. Anyway, really appreciate you guys. USFL. I think they need to step the game up, Lane. I think they really need to step the game up. Speaking of the Spring League, I have my wonderful Spring League jerseys we're going to be giving away. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We have our Brian Scott game ball we're going to be giving away when we hit 2,500 subscribers. Jerry, Montreal got the number one draft pick, BC's first round draft pick for 2023. So that is what the trade was for the Vernon Adams. And just here, James is continuing on. They completed this is talking USFL. Completed the season with decent viewership week by week, had a good championship game. All the players got paid. Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think you can I'm not going to even entertain that the USFL wasn't successful. And this is someone that has been vehemently told that I am an anti-USFL person. Frozen record. Remember, CFL starts this weekend. That's what I've been told. CFL starts Labor Day. Well, BC has a new quarterback. Very excited. BC Lions are going for it. Really appreciate everyone. Like I said, check the episode out on Friday. Should be really good. I'm going to roll the outro music now. Thank you guys all so much again. Like and subscribe. Take care. And I'll be putting this up on the audio version as well. If you guys miss any of the episode, you can watch the replay on here, or you can check it out on the audio feed. I thought Andy and I had a really good discussions about not only Gary Stern, Vernon, the BC Lions, USFL players to the NFL, XFL timeline announcements, kind of all that stuff. So thank you guys all so much again. Take care and stay. Let me get this out of here. Take care and stay safe. Yeah, everyone, bye, wave. Let me figure out how to end this. All right, thanks.